I made it to the end of Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake, and I finally got to experience the ending of this beautiful game. I've already spoken at length about my first impressions and overall love for this game in the 2 other videos I've made about Trails on my channel. I'll link those below. But now that I've completed the journey, I want to come back and share my thoughts on the game as a whole from the perspective of a new fan who's come into the series completely blind with no prior knowledge of the game. As a warning, this video will be full of spoilers. If you haven't finished Trails in the Sky First Chapter, you'll probably want to skip this video for now. I can't get enough of the world building in Trails in the Sky First Chapter, and my love for the different areas and towns has only grown since completing the game. Zeiss was by far my favorite area in the entire game. The central factory was such a unique and enjoyable area to explore, almost like its own little city. The side quests and NPCs inside the central factory and with Tita are some of my favorite quests in the entire game. The design of the factory itself and all of the NPC activity inside made it so much fun and feel really alive. Zeiss also had great music, and all the cat stuff with little Antoine was just the best. Honorable mentions for favorite locations also go to the fishing lodge at Valeria Shores, as well as the castle in the royal capital. As for the characters, I still love them all. Estelle and Joshua are still my top 2, with Olivier a very close third. Tita gets an honorable mention as well. Her fight animations were so cute, and she was such a cool, intelligent addition to the cast. I also love Shara, and I suspect there's more to her story than what meets the eye. I wish we would have learned more about her. Just so many good characters all the time. The 2 reporters are great, and again, I can't get enough Olivier. Cassius, I don't know, he's a little too good to be believable, so I'm curious to see how he develops in the second game. Right now, he feels more like a generic plot device swooping in to save the day whenever needed. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more information on him by the end of the game, so I'm curious to see where things go with him. The voice acting remains amazing, with Olivier and Joshua's voice actors tied for my favorite 2 performances in the game. My love for the combat hasn't changed. In fact, it only grew stronger in the final chapters. I do feel like the difficulty dropped off quite a bit towards the end of the game. Access to more powerful quartz, support abilities, crafts, and gear made late game combat feel way more relaxed for me compared to the first half of the game. Boss fights still held a good level of challenge though, and the final boss battle was so much fun. I really enjoyed getting the whole gang back together. I do wish we could have brought everyone into the final fight, but it was still great experimenting with different party members, and it was great that we had the ability to choose who we wanted to bring with us to the final fight scenes. Also, I just have to say, I had this horrible gut feeling going into the final fights that all of our friends would die in front of us, so I'm very happy that that didn't happen, and as far as I know, everyone in our little crew is still alive. I'm very thankful we weren't subjected to that level of emotional damage just yet. So let's talk about the ending. Professor Alba. This man has driven me crazy since the moment he was introduced. I'm not sure if it was the long coat, the tiny eyes, or the fact that he just seemed to pop up at the weirdest moments, but I knew that man was bad news. Obviously, there's no way I could have predicted his actual role, but when he started casually chatting about artifacts at the start of the final chapter, I was immediately suspicious. Why are you hanging around us? Why are you here? Why are your eyes so small? What I didn't expect was how deeply he was tied to Joshua's past. I had a bit of a suspicion that maybe Joshua was a child soldier or something along those lines. No, I definitely did not think anything like what would be revealed was coming, but it was clear to me that he had skills and a darkness about him that didn't come from Cassius. Something that was a product of his past, pre-Bright family. The writers knew what they were doing, giving us only minimal info about his past. It only made me wonder about it more. A conscious, calculated decision. You're given just enough to know about Joshua to feel curious, but never enough to feel satisfied. You have to keep going with the story, which I think is absolutely top-tier writing. Now, the final scene between Estelle and Joshua, it truly brought me to tears, and it takes a lot to make me cry these days. It had me so emotional, though. Joshua's feelings of being unworthy of love, reconciling past actions, and dealing with guilt while also understanding that the things you've done and you've experienced make you who you are, for better or for worse. These are incredibly moving themes for me. The story up to that point has been light at times and a bit cheesy, but everything was handled so well in the final scene, and it was really given the proper writing and treatment that it deserved. Now, of course, the ending caught me off guard, but I was pleasantly surprised in a way because I was sure either Joshua or Estelle was going to be killed off. So, as much of a cliffhanger as it was, it didn't devastate me like I was bracing for. The callback to the early scene with the harmonica in the prologue was such a wonderful choice for the ending. Everything was just perfect. And Estelle's last speech, I was so scared they were going to write her as goofy, awkward, or naive in that moment, but they nailed it. You saw how much that Joshua meant to her, and you saw how deep their relationship truly was. This story and these characters will stick with me for a very long time. Now that I've finished the game, do I have any remaining criticism? Not really. It's about as close to a perfect game as it gets these days. My only little negative comment is almost a compliment too, in a way, and it's about the breadth of characters but the shallowness of their development. The game introduces so many characters, all who are so likable and interesting, but I don't feel it gives them near enough backstory for my liking. I want to know more about everyone in the party. And I'm left hooked but unsatisfied. But I think that's also part of the charm and what makes this series so addictive. It all feels conscious, calculated, and well thought out, even in the slow parts. For example, I felt like things dragged the tiniest bit in the last chapter. I could have done without all of the arena tournament fights. However, just as I felt like things were getting kind of slow and I was feeling the tiniest bit of impatience with the plot, Joshua and Estelle are hit with the secret message delivered to their room anonymously and a mysterious meeting after dark at the church. This is just an example of a perfect switch of pace at exactly the right moment that happens often in this game. Of course, Trails in the Sky first chapter is dialogue heavy, it's slow at times, and it's not action-packed, but for me though, these are all the best parts of the game and things that made me love it. This game is very special to me, and I'm so thankful that I found it and I took my time exploring it slowly. Now that I've finished Trails in the Sky first chapter, where do I go from here? Obviously, the ending of the game screams play second chapter immediately, and the original version of second chapter is currently on sale on Steam, so I'm very tempted to pick that up. But at the same time, I don't feel an urgency to jump into second chapter. The only thing that's holding me back is the fear of burnout. I've spent so many hours with Estelle and Joshua and the gang that I almost want to let it all breathe. I don't want it to feel like a slog. I also worry about the age of the original games. I don't mind the graphics, but I wonder about missing all of the quality of life improvements in the modern remake. I don't want any potential frustrations with the mechanics of the older games taking away from my enjoyment of the story. So as of the time of filming this, I am currently undecided what I'm going to do next. The original version of second chapter is in my cart on Steam, but I haven't hit purchase yet. I do plan on slowly picking away at a second playthrough of Trails in the Sky first chapter that it started streaming here on my channel. There's a few side quests that I've missed, things I realized too late about the game that I'd like to go back and see and do again. So I will probably continue to stream that here once or twice a week as long as there's a little bit of interest. If you have any thoughts on Trails in the Sky first chapter remake after finishing it yourself, I would love to hear those in the comments section. If you have any thoughts or opinions on what I should do next in terms of continuing through this series, I would also love to hear that as well.